Hi folks, Dan Robinson back from Potomac, Maryland. I've got another update for you today on the Shoyoung LC90 portable radio that I've been talking about for some time. This is the combination shortwave, long wave, medium wave, FM, and internet, global internet radio. And the difference, of course, with this radio is that it's the first really to provide decent performance on HF shortwave combined with internet reception, I'm going to call it reception, internet capabilities, but also with the ability to upgrade its firmware directly over the air. It's kind of a complicated story, and that ability was implemented in firmware updates over the last month or so. So this is really an amazing little portable, but it does have its issues. Let me first tell you that, again, this is a revolutionary little portable. It's got the same form factor as something like the Texan PL990. And, again, the difference is that this gives you the ability to go directly from, what could very well be a very scratchy shortwave signal, especially in these times of CME and solar flares and interference from the atmosphere, but go directly back over to the internet streams like, for the BBC or Voice of America or other stations. And so you have crystal clear reception of these stations on the internet. But of course you can go back to shortwave, whenever you want, which is the main strength of this radio. And you got to hand it to Shoyoung and the key designer of this radio there in China for going ahead with this kind of receiver project. It's certainly a major development in the listening hobby. It's something really we didn't expect, although actually the first of these was reviewed back in September, October of 2023. So let me give you some personal views on this. Put the radio down for a second. First of all, look, there's some other reviewers out there who undoubtedly are taking information that I put up here on the internet and not giving me credit. I'm going to give you the information and my reactions nonetheless. I would urge everyone to credit me for information and points that I make, but, that's not going to happen with everyone. So let me make a point with the latest firmware update of the LC90. The latest firmware update is 4.5. As these radios originally shipped, they shipped with, I believe, 4.0, the base original firmware. But it's now up to 4.5. And one of the major problems with the LC90, which many of us quickly realized even after we put out some, positive written published reviews, was that the receiver really suffered badly from birdies, internally generated noise or signals, from medium wave on up to shortwave, to the top of the shortwave band, shortwave spectrum, which was increased to 29.999 megahertz in one of the firmware updates. I mean, these birdies were so bad that some stations, some broadcast stations, on known frequencies would have these tones appear on them and would make it virtually impossible to listen to that station, even if you were using the bandwidths in AM to try to get away from that internally generated signal. So here's the big development. Of course, the 4.5 firmware update has, and we're quite excited about this, the 4.5 update appears to have eliminated most, if not all, of the birdies. Now, it's impossible without going through detailed band-to-band tuning to confirm that all of the internal birdies have been eliminated. And even other receivers that we know by Texan and other manufacturers have these birdies present. So I'm not going to say to you here that all the birdies are actually gone in this radio, but certainly compared to the situation that existed before this 4.5 update, this is a much better situation. Let me go from that issue of the birdies over to the question of single sideband. This is not an excellent single sideband radio. SSB was added in the earlier firmware update primarily at the request of users in the listening community who noted, among other things, that we like to listen to amateur operators, and also those of us who are used to listening to broadcast stations using single sideband reception, technique known as exalted carrier reception, to improve listenability. So that feature was added, but the way it's been implemented in this receiver through firmware is nowhere near satisfactory. The good thing is that it has the capability. So if you have to listen to, let's say, an amateur operator operating an upper sideband, you can certainly do that. But SSB in this receiver is still very unstable, and it's kind of also strange because when you go to lower or upper sideband, you really can't hear the full breadth of the signal in SSB. You can hear it if it's lower or upper and you tune up by 10, 20 hertz or whatever, but it's certainly not. It hasn't achieved the kind of single sideband reception that you'll find on a Texan radio. So the headline there is, if you're looking for a single sideband reception in a receiver, you're going to be disappointed in this radio. Go to Texan, get a 990 or an H501 or even the PL330, even the PL368 or the GP7 via CountyCom. Even those receivers, those small Texan receivers, have really decent single sideband. And I'll say this also about the SSB issue. That is not something that I believe, based on my communications with the company, with the designer, that's not something I believe is going to be solved through firmware updates. I believe you're going to have to wait until the next version of this radio, which we're told will be called the LC100, and that's not going to come until probably early in 2025. So let me just talk about a couple of other additional quirks. Let me see if I can get this in focus again. A couple of other quirks that this receiver has that may make it a frustrating listening experience for you. The way the AGC is implemented in this radio is not good. When you're tuning, let's say, an HF across the 19 meter band or 25 meter band, you're just using your main, your main tuning knob here at the top. You're going to hear a lot of crashes, and crackles and noise, and that points to a problem with how AGC is implemented in this receiver's architecture. So that may be an instantaneous frustrating point for many of us. It is for me. And if this radio didn't also have the capability of internet reception, for that reason alone, if I had it to do over again, I probably wouldn't purchase it myself. There's some other quirks also, and one of them is that when you're in the meter band mode, I think that's a quick press of this upper main tuning knob. Just a quick press puts you in meter band mode. The logical thing would be to, when you're tuning forward on that knob, for the meter bands to advance from low to high. But in fact, when you're doing that on the LC90, you go forward on that with that knob, the meter bands reduce. So in other words, forward would get you, go from 25 meters to 31 to 49, whereas and backward would go up. That is correctable in firmware, and I've already communicated it to Cho Young, and I hope they correct that problem as well. There are some other, issues with, how the radio does internet. The internet search function really has to be perfected, and I know Cho Young is working on that in terms of the database, and looking ahead to the LC100, what kind of a redesigned radio is going to look like, and where some of these buttons are going to go. There are a lot of buttons on this thing, and you really don't need that many, to be frank. There's a language button, there's one with a musical note, there's a podcast button, there's a favorites button, and I know Cho Young has been working on that issue as well. As far as the cosmetic ergonomic issues go, I've already covered that. The antenna, of course, can't be placed forward. There's no backstand on the radio, and the antenna, because it wasn't designed to do so, really doesn't doesn't have space to swivel, and it doesn't come out of the cabinet case in order to accomplish that. So that and the backstand are probably something that you'll see in the LC100 when that receiver comes out. As noted by others, the double torque screw battery compartment here is really unnecessary. They can just have this, accessible, easily accessible with some kind of a redesign of that cover. And of course, the big critique in the beginning was the fact that the ports and the jacks are placed between the knobs. Anyway, all of these design points, by the way, were done to preserve what's really arguably the best audio box of any portable receiver in this kind of form factor. The sound box in the LC90 is really fantastic. I think it exceeds even the H501 by Texan in terms of its quality. You can tell that especially in FM and on the internet. So anyway, here's the good news. The good news is that the resolution of the Birdie problem in the LC90 really takes care of one of the major criticisms of the radio. If that had not been accomplished, I would have said, send the thing back, wait for the new version of the radio. But amazingly, they were able to resolve the Birdies problem. But again, the single sideband issue, and it's really it's a bad problem with this receiver. The single sideband has to be worked on. I don't believe, based on my information from the company, that is something that can happen through firmware. Again, I think that's something you'll see in the LC100. Oh, there's one other thing which I'll note for you, which is that users will note that in medium wave, when you're tuning medium wave AM on the LC90, you cannot tune AM medium wave stations using single sideband. Kind of a strange one because most other portables, in fact, not all, all the portables I have here behind me, the old, the old Sony 2010, all the Sony classic receivers, Grundig receivers, you could still use single sideband when you were in AM medium wave mode as a tool of reception, but not on the LC90. And that's not something that I expect Choyoung to address. They're going to just stick with, giving you the ability to tune medium wave with the indoor or the outdoor antenna settings on this radio. Anyway, I think it's, overall it's a lot of good news. Again, the resolution of the Birdies issue with the LC90 was really unexpected. Some of us thought that, we're kind of going to be dead in the water until the LC100 came on the scene in 2025. But that does make this still an attractive choice for those who want to combine shortwave listening with internet reception in a radio form factor like this. For that reason alone, I could recommend the radio to those of you for that. Okay, thanks a lot. Much appreciated, and I'll be back with another update. Bye-bye.